Thank you for tuning into the Penn City Current pregame show on Bloodhound Sports. I'm Chuck Vandenberg, and the following is an interview with Fort Madison's head football coach, Derek Doherty. We'll start with a recap of last Friday's game and then preview tonight's matchup. Okay, so we're here at the Penn City Current pregame. We've got Coach Derek Doherty here with us. Thanks again for your time. Entering week already. I mean, it seems like it's a snap of the fingers, and this season's more than 3/4 of the way over. But you come in this week 6-1 after a tough loss last week in a game where we talked afterwards about some missed opportunities there. I play chess a lot, so I always go back to some of that, and you gotta see the whole board. And like you said after the game Friday, there's still lots of meat on the bone here this season. So first, let's just what are the reflections from last week? What have the conversations been like? Just kind of give us a glimpse into what Bloodhound football's been this week, and then we'll kind of take a look at that board.
Yeah, so I broke my 0-0 mentality, and I held on to the 0-1 mentality a little bit longer than I should have. So I know our guys did too. They took it hard. Coaching staff took it hard, and we just decided we've got to stay true to our mentality. We went back to 0-0. Had a really good film session on Monday and showed kids there was opportunity. And our kids played extremely hard, but we did not play well. And I think they knew that. And then when you watch it on film, we did some things that are very uncharacteristic of us. And I think it was an eye-opener for them. So, we did talk about opportunities in that football game, but football games don't come down to 1, 2, 3 plays. There was a lot of snaps in there, and we did some nice things, and then we did some really not nice things, and worked hard this week on sharpening those things up and making sense of things. And some of it was just we got away with things early on, whether it was just the right time or whatever it may be, but Iowa City Liberty didn't let us get away with it, and it's a good football team.
Yeah, that you said the 0-1 mentality, which is against your characteristic and your mantra for the season so far. Talk a little bit more about that. So at the beginning of the week, you were hanging on to that loss a little bit longer than you wanted to. Is that what you're talking about there?
Yeah. I woke up motivated, obviously, on Saturday morning and started on film right away, getting things broken down, doing what I do. But just couldn't shake it. Obviously, it hurts. It still hurts. Feel like it was a winnable football game. Wish we could play it again, but you can wish all you want. It's not going to happen. You have to be your best every single Friday. That's just the game of football. So I did hang on to it a little bit longer, and obviously still hanging on to it a little bit, if we're being honest. Still hanging on to Grinnell as well. Last year, it's just those things are hard to leave you, but am motivated and positive moving towards this task this week.
Okay. So, let's take a look at that whole board, because, and we'll preface this conversation, as you guys don't like to look too far ahead. I read a post from one of your assistant coaches, Pat Lamb, that said basically he doesn't subscribe to the transitive property of football prognostication. There's the word for you this week, prognostication. So, but when you look at what Iowa City Liberty did, and you made this point kind of clear to me in the post game, you said you felt a little better about next Friday. And that really kind of gave me goosebumps, because I'm like, you know what, he's absolutely right. What you see in Iowa City Liberty, you see in North Scott.
Yeah.
And you were able to play with North Scott with Iowa City Liberty to the point where you had chances to win that game several times. You had chances to win that game. So talk about that a little bit, because Iowa City Liberty's got, they got the numbers up there.
Mm-hmm.
North Scott's got numbers. Most of those, if you look at BEDS, which is the basic educational data numbers, those are big schools comparatively speaking to us. I mean, we're like the third or fourth smallest school in 4A, yet you were playing with them and put yourself in position to win that game. North Scott's very similar football program to theirs. Talk about, I don't want to say blueprint, but did you take anything away from that Iowa City Liberty game that you're going to use this Friday to go up there and not just put on a good show, but but come away with a win against one of the best teams in the state.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm big on not comparing scores, not comparing this or that, just because styles match up and styles clash sometimes. So, Iowa City Liberty and North Scott was a 21-0 ball game, 21 points in the second quarter. You know, like, yeah, I know those stats, and obviously you look at it to see if you can dig something out of it, but at the end of the day, they're going to line up in their three front, and we're going to line up in our spread offense and you know, try to attack them, and then we're going to flip, and they're going to do the same thing because they run kind of a spread offense, and we run a three front. So I don't know. I don't know how much you can take away from last week as far as the Iowa City Liberty side of things and apply it to North Scott this week, but we can look at ourselves and we know our rules, we know our jobs, and we just didn't do our jobs at times, and it hurt us. And I think, you know, we hope that the kids learned from that and they're willing to do their job this week. And we did have a really great practice yesterday, so lessons are being learned.
Okay. One of the dynamics about those bigger schools is that they can run a fresh team out on both sides of the ball. You see a little bit of cross play there, some kids playing on both sides of the ball, but for the most part, these guys got one job to do, maybe two on special plays. Does that, knowing that your kids are in such good shape, and it's you don't think twice about putting a McGowan out on both sides of the ball, and Mateo and Tate and T and all this stuff, but do you look at games differently against bigger schools like that can do that kind of thing? Do you have to game plan differently for that?
Yes and no, and obviously knowing that they can two platoon, you know, maybe it's not a full two platoon, but they can sub in and out and keep you know, some guys fresh. That's a luxury. You know, that's what we're trying to build towards. We're recruiting the hallways here, trying to get more kids to come out for football, and you know, it's awesome this year. We've had the biggest number of kids that we've had in a long time. Some of them just aren't ready for Friday nights, you know, and it is what it is. We don't have that luxury yet. I think that it's coming because I think that, you know, more and more kids are interested in playing football, and they're going to get better. And, you know, we're hoping at some point where we can take out you know, a Tate Johnson and sub in with somebody who's right there. And we do have guys. I mean, don't get me wrong. Miles Deere has been looking really good for us, and so now Xander can get a breather because he goes both ways, and we're fully confident in Miles Deere. And so again, that's nice knowing that we do have a little bit of that. Do we have it like Iowa City Liberty? No. You know, school's at least 2 times bigger than us, and that's more kids that they get a pick from, you know, and at the end of the day, it is what it is, and we're proud of our kids for just the toughness. I mean, football's a tough game anyways. Then you're going both ways. Some of our kids are playing special teams. They literally never leave the field. They're banged up, nicked up, getting after it, and it's just, it says a lot about the kid.
And the program that you developed. Because those kids, there's no, you don't ever hear a kid complaining about having to play both sides, and I don't think there was an advantage to you guys running Ensminger out there all the time and Xander and all those kids out there when they're platooning kids. I mean, there was no disadvantage there, and you haven't seen that all year.
Right, and I think some of that, you know, going back 3 years ago when we played Clear Creek Amana, we were in a dogfight with them, and they just leaned on us, and they had more bodies to sub in, and at the end of the game, I remember our kids, that gas tank was dry, and they gave it everything that they had. We ended up losing that ball game, but I was so proud of those kids. You know, and we walk away Friday nights, win or lose, we know that our kids are going to empty the gas tank, whether we're up 55-12 or we're down 23-19. I mean, our kids are going to empty it. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah, and after the game Friday, they didn't seem to me to be gassed. They were just bummed.
Yeah.
But they were out there. They would have gone another quarter, I guess is the best way to put it, to get that game in. They would have gone another quarter to get that win.
Well, and again, credit to the kids because physiologically we're training for recovery, and I think that our kids do recover very well. They can give a big burst and then recover. That's something that we focus really hard on because that's the game of football. Really, that's the game of volleyball too. You got to burst and then be able to recover. So we train our athletes for those athletic purposes. We don't send them on 5-mile runs and things like that. It's not beneficial to us. So we're precise in our training.
And I haven't seen any cramping this year like we saw last year. Xander cramps a little bit,
Yeah.
But other than that, the kids are going full tilt out there and looking to, like you say, cause some damage. The nice segue to volleyball there, and this is kind of out of left field, but I was out at the Centrally Holy Trinity game. When was that? Tuesday night, and 2 football players there. Jacob McGowan was there, and Hayden Segoviana was there. And those two, it was kind of a special moment. They came up and started talking to me about the game, and we just had a little conversation between games. And Jacob's always got a smile on his face, and these guys aren't going up there to put on a good show, Derek. These guys are going up there to win a football game.
Right.
And to me, it just kind of was a goosebump moment for me because I was like, wait a minute, these guys just, took one on the chin that they know they probably were in a position to win, and now they're looking forward to going out and playing the Class 3A state champions from last year and the number 1 team rated state, and they think they can win. And so I think that when you look at, again, this transitive property that Pat Lamb talked about, we can't compare this, but man, they had those numbers in their head.
Yeah.
And they were like, this happened and that happened, and we can do this and we can do that. And they were just having a great conversation about how this game's going to go, and they're ready to go up there and win.
Yeah.
And so talk about that mentality. I mean, I haven't seen that kind of excitement from kids. I mean, usually they're talking about something else, or, and they're in the bleachers cheering or whatever. These kids made a point to come down and talk to me about the game.
Yeah, football's important to our kids. They've invested. It's not like they picked up a football in August and said, hey, let's go do this, and they're going to put it down whenever we're done and not touch it again until next August. These guys are playing multiple sports with football still on their brain. Like, I'm wrestling or playing basketball, running track because I want to be a better football player. And so it's important to them. And we were clear in our Monday meeting, and we said, if you're not planning on going up there and competing with these guys, do not get on the bus. Take the week off and do not come to practice. And I was sincere in that. It's not a, hey, gotcha moment. I'm a competitor. And we're going to prepare the same for if it's a 0-win team or a 7-win team. We're going to prepare the same, and we're going to go out and we're going to attack. And you got to put yourself in the best situations possible. And like I said, you have to be your best every Friday. We talked to our guys about the rough side of the mountain, and at Fort Madison, that's what you're going to have to do. It's not going to be easy. Football is not an easy sport, whether, again, you're playing a top-notch team or a lower tier team or whatever you want to call it. We have to be at our best, and that is the mentality. And if you're not at your best, ready to go, we'll have you schematically and physically ready, no doubt. Are you mentally ready? And if you are, get on the bus. If not, don't.
Is there let's use the dog mantra, is there how's the word? Are these guys ready to chase a car down the street? I mean, are they ready to get after this in lieu of what happened Friday?
Yeah, I think they're excited about the opportunity. I mean, and that's what it is. It's an opportunity to go and rebound. We don't talk about wins and losses inside the program until after it's done, but we're going to go and chase our goals, our in-game goals, and empty the gas tank and see what happens. And yeah, the guys are excited about the opportunity, and that's what I love about them. I think we saw it last week. Old Fort Madison. Sounds bad when I say that, but just the mentality, because we had great kids, great athletes who did not do this, but it just seemed like the MO was we would pack the tent in, as Coach Smith would say. Like something bad would happen and it would just turn into an avalanche. And our kids have not done that. I mean, Clinton came back and scored on us, and our kids, it wasn't even a second thought. And then obviously with Liberty coming in and doing the things that they did, our kids were in that game trying for 4 quarters of football. And that's all we asked for them. And you know what? The loss hurts, but we are proud of our kids because we know that the effort was there. The execution was not. And some nights it just unfortunately isn't. And that's at the elite level. NFL guys are not executing sometimes. It's just, as frustrating as it is, like these are 17, 18-year-old kids, and sometimes it just doesn't go your way. And as long as you're giving your best attitude and your best effort, we are 100% happy with you.
Yeah, I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. I know about the execution failures this year. Excuse me. So, again, looking at the whole board, these next 2 games are very big games for you guys. And I know you don't like to go to postseason, but we've got some listeners out there that may be a little confused as to how that works. So, basically, the top 2 teams in each district get automatic, and then there's 4 at-large bids.
Correct.
Those 4 at-large bids are based on the RPI index determined by the state's formula.
Correct.
That's correct. Okay. So you are number 9 currently
Correct.
in RPI. Okay. So these games are important. You're also in a pretty good spot right now because North Scott and Burlington both have decent records, and that opponent record and opponent's records figure into that RPI. So nothing is, as you say, packed up in the bag and being taken home here. But tell me how big these 2 games are for you. North Scott, we're going up there, and we're going to do everything we can to come away from a win. Go to Bracewell, you're going to do everything you can to come away from a win there. We've not been in a position like this where, because last year everybody made the playoffs.
Right.
So now you've got 2 games in front of you that really you control your own destiny in getting into the postseason. Knowing that you are 0-0, maybe 0-1 for the first couple of days here, but 0-0 going into this game, what's your mentality? What's the staff's mentality going into these last 2 games?
One, what a privilege to be in this situation. I mean, as a coaching staff, this is what we've always wanted. We wanted to build a program to be in these types of situations. Obviously, it'd be great to be 7-0, in the driver's seat, but we told our kids, you heard it last week, there's still a lot of meat on the bone. I mean, opportunity is there. And we talked in our coaches meeting, not sure if the kids fully understood. You could tell on their faces there's a lot of rejection or whatever, and I think they thought, oh no, we're not going to make it, but that's not true at all. There's still opportunity to do that. Obviously, best case, we win the next 2 football games. Really, really hard to keep us out depending on what happens with the other games. I mean, Burlington and Iowa City Liberty, that's a big game this week for them to kind of see how things go, and then not looking ahead, but we know that they're the battle with Burlington is going to happen at some point, and where is everybody at? We don't know yet. Can't control that, but there's a lot of meat on the bone, and we're excited to still be in the hunt for that playoff spot, and it's a goal of ours. It's something that we talk about inside of our program, and we know that we've got to control us in order to make that happen.
Well, I would think that a win this week would pretty much lock that in for you, I would think. There's a lot of numbers and data in there. I even tried to figure out how they got to your RPI number.
Yeah.
And you think it's like, okay, you take these 3 percentages, add them up, divide by 3, it's still off by like a 1/10%. I'm like, okay. So something must have a little extra weight in there.
Yeah.
Well,
and it is confusing. Even, I'll be honest with you, I know the coaches are asking me, and I'm an analytical freak. I love data, but I'm like brainwashing myself. I'm not looking at that stuff. I did see the stat where we're 9th. We're looking at the data for what North Scott presents, right? And that's what we're attacking this week. We'll look at the data for what Burlington presents next week, and the chips will fall where they fall. Me understanding the formula, I don't think is going to benefit us in our job tomorrow night or our job next week. So, some of that, it's hard.
Yeah.
Some of it looking ahead and all that, like you literally have to brainwash yourself to stay in the present.
So we'll talk a little bit. Grayson Jewell obviously is a threat in that backfield with the clap and go, as I call it. They typically run that one running back to his right, but they'll put somebody in the slot and they'll run 2 on one side or the other. Kind of different look from what you've seen all year. The Butler kid can run, and then next week you're going to have the Williams kid. And then this Jacob Nelson is a good slot guy too. What any specific different challenges they present, or is it back to the, do your job, lock down your person, lock down your zone?
Yeah, I mean that's what it comes down to. Do they have good athletes? Absolutely, no doubt about it. It's a well-established program. They won a state championship last year, and I really appreciate their coaching staff. We got to listen to their head coach talk at a clinic, and a very humble guy, and obviously runs a great program. They reload. They lost a great quarterback in the Markham kid last year, and they replace him right away. I mean, this kid is good, no doubt about it. And but again, football's a game of execution, and who's going to be able to execute their job better, and said it last week, create damage and minimize damage, and win in the margins. And that's going to be big for a Fort Madison football team, is winning in the margins. And we lost 2 of the 3 major margins for us last week, and we tied in the third, and we showed the kids that. And all the things that we preach about winning football games, if that's the ultimate goal for you, here's the goals that are going to make that happen. And when you lose 2 of the 3 margins, you're not setting yourself up for success. So our kids finally got to see that, and unfortunately it was a negative feeling and a negative result, but hopefully that launches us forward.
Yeah, it was interesting and eye-opening after that game to watch an I-80 corridor school celebrate a win over Fort Madison like that. I mean, that really says a lot about the reputation you're building here, in my mind, because those kids were just elated with that win, and they've been in some good football games this year.
Yeah, and Coach Harris, I have the utmost respect for him, and he said some really nice things post game, which doesn't make it feel any better when you're looking at the scoreboard. We messaged back and forth a little bit on Sunday, and again some nice things, and feels good, but we're not there. Obviously, we want the win. I'd rather have the win than the nice comments.
Sure. Or both.
Yeah, both would be fantastic. But utmost respect, and I talked to 23 after the game. He's a great running back.
I saw that conversation.
He, what an elite kid. He had some very nice things to say about our guys, and to be honest with you, I didn't share it with our kids because you just keep doing what you're doing, and you're doing the right things. Like I said, Friday night just was not our night execution-wise, and hopefully we don't have another one of those.
Yeah. Well, we'll be up there Friday with you. I'm actually going to stay up there Friday night,
Awesome.
So I can file the story quicker. But let's bring some people up. That could be a special day up there.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun.
Go Bloodhounds.
Go Hounds.
All right. Thanks, Coach. This has been the Penn City Current pregame show on Bloodhound Sports. Please be sure to tune in to next week's game, where we will recap tonight's game and preview the next game. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to read about the game in your hyperlocal, super fresh, 24/7 source for news and information, the Penn City Current.